For 2019, in order to reduce downforce and make the aerodynamics a little less sensitive to following another car, the big changes came at the front of the car. First, the front wing got simplified significantly. You would see all the end plates became far simpler and in terms of geometry, more or less prescribed, highly constrained. The wing became a bit wider, such that it's a bit easier to control the airflow going around the front tire. The other bit which got modified were on the front brake duct. Essentially, in the previous years, teams had developed ways to blow airflow through the axle, which we call the blown hubs, and that was quite powerful to generate outwash, but again, was quite sensitive when you would follow someone. Then the barge board themselves got reduced in height. Alongside these changes at the front of the car, there was also a change at the rear of the car. The rear wing got to be higher, a bit wider. But the intention for that was literally for the drivers to be able to see what's happening behind them, which again affected their ability to race other cars. Because it's fair to say, if we have freedom in aerodynamics, we design the mirrors for aerodynamic performance, not necessarily for the driver to see. And in the previous set of regulations, it was obvious the best location for the mirror in terms of performance was somewhere when the driver looked in the mirror, he would see his rear wing. He would see nothing else. Also in 2019, there was another change on the tires where purely modified the thickness of the tread just to make the tire a little more resistant to overheating. Because in 2018, there were quite a few races which were fairly high energy. You would see tires blistering quite a lot. So this new tire for 2019 looked again quite benign, just very small reduction in thickness, but it gave large differences in how the tire behaved thermally. So then teams had to redevelop quite a lot all the tire management tools in the car, mostly speaking the front and rear brake ducts. So this kept being more and more of a challenge for the teams just to maintain the tire in the optimum temperature window. In 2018, we had a set of regulations trying to back off the amount of downforce the cars were carrying through simplifying the aerodynamics. But really, when we got to the end of 2019, through development, we still had faster cars than the year before. There was this ever-growing downforce level these cars would generate. The more you would learn how best to extract performance, how to optimize all your devices, it seemed like the potential was always greater and greater the more you learned. So for 2020, nothing really changed. The cars remained very much consistent, the regulations remained consistent because there was the big change of regulations planned for 2021 with the new ground effect cars or the research being done upstream. It was mostly about turning the wheel of development as fast as you could, getting more extreme with the designs, more extreme with some details. And in 2020, we saw the fastest cars these regulations would bring. Then, with the COVID coming among us, the new regulations got delayed by 1 year. By delaying the regulations by 1 more year, we had to find a way such that the teams would not have to redesign a complete new car. The downforce would genuinely be reduced to make sure the tires remain in the normal operating window. And to try and contain developments, there was also a significant chassis freeze for 2021, which came along the lines of a new token system. For a few areas of the cars, got assigned a sort of token price, and each team would have 2 tokens to spend. As a team, you had to decide on which end of the car you would spend your 2 tokens. the front or the back, being fully aware the other end would be identical to 2020. And then in parallel came the final definition of what the aerodynamic regulation would change. And it came as a significant simplification of the floor edge. The floor ahead of the rear tires became a bit narrower, and all the complex flow management features like fences and gills which we had developed, all this had to go away. In itself, the change of floor width ahead of the rear tires looked fairly benign, but when you look at what it did to the aerodynamics of the car, it was very significant. We had spent years developing all the details ahead of the tire to manage the airflow around the rear tires and make sure the diffuser is in the best possible conditions to perform. With the floor trim, we also had a small reduction on a span of the winglets attached to the rear brake duct. This had a fair effect in itself, but not as dramatic as the floor trim. So looking back at this generation of cars from 2017 to 2021, it seems like we may have reached a very high level of performance, a very high level of downforce, but also a very high level of complexity. These cars we had in 2021, but especially 2020, were incredibly fast, incredibly exciting from an engineering point of view, but I can also see why for the drivers it was a bit frustrating when you follow someone or you arrive behind someone, you know you're faster because you've got better tires or you're a better driver, and you just cannot overtake just because the car is too sensitive and it does not allow you to get closer. So this was the clear requirement for the new 2022 generation of cars. Making the cars a bit simpler, a bit more compliant from the driver's perspective, to be able to race closer, to not suffer from so much aerodynamic loss behind another car, was the clear intention for 2022. I think the concept is proving very different aerodynamically. It has very different characteristics, and I think for everyone involved in designing these cars, I think the future challenges are quite exciting.
Mark Richards is a champion yachtsman and an award-winning boat designer. In 2014, he took on a new challenge. He came on board to modernize and relaunch one of the world's most iconic brands, Grand Banks Yachts. His first model, the exquisite GB60, proved to be both an evolution and a revolution. While maintaining the elegant lines and opulent interiors that define the Grand Banks style, Mark and his team rebuilt this classic cruiser from the inside out. The GB60 and the GB54, which soon followed, have been designed and constructed using a radical new technology, V-Warp. This is truly a game changer. V-Warp combines a flared semi-displacement hull, rigid construction techniques, and superior materials to reduce weight and lower the center of gravity. The result is class-leading speed, stability, and fuel economy. Unsurprisingly, response from owners and the boating industry alike have been overwhelmingly enthusiastic. So much so that Mark is now applying this design philosophy to a new 85-foot flagship. The JB85 is 3 times the volume of the 60, and while her elongated hull may have crept into the super yacht category, this yacht belongs in a class of her own. The V-Warp platform delivers a flawless combination of the finest materials, cutting-edge robotics, and traditional hand craftsmanship. Vacuum infusion of premium-grade fabrics and a fully infused carbon fiber deck and superstructure has allowed Mark to create expansive interiors, which don't require the structural support that might compromise the spaciousness of the design. Hull number 1 has 3 massive staterooms and separate crew quarters, with 2 cabins that can be used for additional guests or children, and the 22-foot 2-inch beam has allowed us to build in some remarkable bespoke features. Flexibility of design is not confined to the interiors. The 85 is available in both enclosed sky lounge and open flybridge configurations, and depending on how and where they intend to use the boat, owners can choose between a traditional shaft drive or pods. This first model has now completed its initial sea trial and is performing exactly to expectations. We're achieving an effortless, high-speed, long-range cruise of 21 knots. Owners and their guests will travel further and faster. They'll spend more time exploring their destination and less time at the fuel dock. In fact, the JB85 will use half the fuel of any other 85-footer on the market. While the V-Warp's perfect balance will guarantee comfort and ease of handling in all conditions, the luxury and ergonomics of her interiors will ensure this flagship of the Grand Banks range is the ultimate home away from home.
What's possible if they won't fall? I never thought skating SLS qualifier would make me skate the whole season SLS because I didn't make the top 3, but I still getting wild cards and be able to skate all the stops. For me, my favorite stop was Salt Lake City because there was a lot of Brazilian fans and they were bringing a lot of energy for me, and skating my first SLS with the pro was like the best feeling. I was really hyped to be on the SLS, on my first SLS. I was a little bit nervous, but at the same time, I did not expect that would be like by the top with the best skaters. Seeing my name on top 7 got me so hyped, and at the same time, less nervous to skate the Super Crown, and it just got me more motivated to keep skating. What I like to do when I'm not skating is like hang out with my friends and watching movies, watching shows, or playing games. I play on my phone. Me and my brother play pool on the phone. So we both stay for like hours playing with each other, like laughing. I miss him a lot, so it makes me happier to like talking to him. I learned this year at SLS that is more than just skating. It's about to meet new people, talk to the fans, and seeing people like my age or older than me like asking for autograph. It just makes me remember like when I was just getting started and then watching P-Rod or Luan, and when I first met him, it was just like so hyped, and I seen like those kids like really hyped to like see me and getting autograph. It's just like, it just makes me happy. I'm super excited for the next SLS. Now I'm focusing on my part, but after it gets done, I'm gonna keep practicing and learn new tricks and maybe bring something new.
What I tend to look for when I go to places are things that are visually appealing. When you walk down the sand dunes here in St. Lucia, just thinking of the old shipwrecks or the explorers, the first thing they saw was these long beaches and impenetrable forest. They still look exactly the same. I can't imagine there are many places in the world where you can see tons of things in one day. I want to pinch my arm and say, this can't be true. I'm in the middle of this. I think the uniqueness is that it's diverse. You could peel off layer after layer and you'll find more and more things. It's all here for you to just be part of.
April 13th, 1970.
Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt.
A Apollo 13 is crippled on its way to the moon when a tank containing liquid oxygen bursts in its command module. The 3 astronauts on board are forced to return to Earth, relying on their lunar module as a lifeboat in space. 1743. Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence and America's 3rd president, is born in the Virginia colony. 1986. In Rome, Pope John Paul II becomes the first pontiff to officially visit a synagogue. It's one of John Paul's most visible moves to improve the Catholic Church's relationship with Jews. 1964. Sidney Poitier is the first black performer in a leading role to win an Oscar for his role in Lilies of the Field. And 1997.
It's something that I've always dreamt of. I think any golfer who's a kid has always dreamt of playing the Masters and winning it, and I was able to do that.
21-year-old Tiger Woods becomes the youngest player to win the Masters tournament. Woods is also the first person of either African American or Asian heritage to win the Masters. Today in history, April 13th. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.
Welcome back in our studio, and in today's news,